Good morning. How is everybody doing this morning? I'm wondering how many people got sleep last night. It wasn't the night before because it was so bloomin' hot than it was last night. And the thunder was rumbling and roaring and everything so loud that it made it a little bit dramatic for sleeping last night. I know it was at my house. My walls were rumbling, like shaking, and my floor. And I wondered how long it was going to be before I was going to have to get up because it was just a little too unnerving. And when it's loud like that, of course, it's because it's just a different sound than what I normally hear. So then I can't sleep through it. So this morning it is wet and damp feeling, but it is cool. It won't stay that very long, I don't think, because the clouds have formed quite nicely out there, and it looks like there could probably be some more rain happening. So it's not going to be cool for very long. But until then, I've opened up my windows and letting the cool air in and turned the fans on to get the air movement going, and then we'll just see what the rest of the day holds. I really do enjoy the coolness after we've had such incredible heat for the past few days. Enough heat that I got burnt, Audrey got burnt, I'm sure there's other people got burnt too, because we went down to the river, which is something that we do on a regular basis, and we sat in the sun only for a couple of hours, and of course it never feels that hot, but then in about the last 20 minutes you realize, I seem to be getting a little bit pink, and you can't see what's going on, and then you get in the cool, and I go, oh dear. Yep, I am definitely burnt. So, showers have been cool lately, and clothing has been loose. I felt sorry for Audrey because she had to go to Grand Prairie yesterday, and she couldn't just run around in her farm shorts and some cut-off sleeved shirt that wouldn't be bugging her burn, and so she was definitely having issues. She was suffering a little bit. So good morning to, I think Audrey was there for a few minutes, and Tassie all the way back home again. Morning, Sharon. Good to see you here this morning. Yeah, so we're running a little bit late this morning just because I have one watch that I use and then my phone, and they're none of them obviously are have been in sync because I think, oh, I've got 5 minutes yet and I can do this, that, and the other thing, pull some more things together and go, oh, I guess I don't have that time because now I'm late. I'm very late. And what does Audrey say? I am here. Oh, she's here. She was saying I'm here. I'm sore. Well, she's probably sore too, although it's probably getting a little bit better today for her. It's been 3 days, but yeah, cool showers. That's the key. Make sure you have a cool shower. Morning, Lori. So I'm here on the deck because it's beautiful, and why not? Because pretty soon, I hate to say it, then I won't be able to be on the deck unless I'm bundled up in all my winter clothes. So I thought, what better day to be on the deck than in this lovely cool morning with the birds chirping. They were, I wouldn't say they were chirping, they were kind of shrieking at each other about 5 minutes ago, and I thought, that's going to sound really good on the Facebook Live with these birds just screaming at each other. I don't know what their issue is, but they're happy with each other, so it's quieting down a little bit now, but it was a little bit iffy there for a few minutes. If you see me kind of glancing around, it's because there's bees buzzing through here, and I don't really like bees, so I'm going to be watching to see, make sure they don't get too close to me. So if I just like shriek and then leap out of the camera way, that's just because the bee was getting too close. Oh my goodness, it's terrible. That's terrible. I should realize that I'm bigger than the bee, and that's not going to get me, but I've been stung hard too many times to be calm and all full of decorum when they go buzzing by. I'm usually in alert mode, ready to run. Morning, Tamar and Lori. Thanks for joining me here this morning. So pottery this morning. Pottery this morning is by, again, one of my favorite potters. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a burgundy mug, and it's got raised flowers over top of a bit of a scroll pattern that's in strips. And then the cup shape, I don't know if you can see that, but it's kind of got these four, I don't know, they kind of stick out a little bit. So she's kind of pushed in some spots on it. So it's got a different shape. I tip it, but see if I can tip it. I don't know if you can see it, but you can see the curves around the top of it. And it's positioned perfectly so that when you take a sip, it's right into the curve. And if you're left-handed, then you would hit the other side. So it's all good. It has these beautiful little raised flowers on it. And it's a pretty morning mug this morning for me. And I've skipped the coffee because I felt like I needed something light. So I've chosen some kind of orange bush tea to drink this morning. And I would have baked something, but my house is full of baking, and I forgot to try and foist some of this off on Taylor and Tassie when they came to visit. So, excuse me. I have cinnamon buns at my house. I have quite a full container of cinnamon buns at my house. So I'm going to have a bite of this cinnamon bun. If you want the recipe for this cinnamon bun, which I think is like the best ever. And it's like the second day later, and you put it in the microwave for 15 seconds, and it's just fantastic. If you want the recipe, you can check back on the Facebook live videos that are on my page. And maybe later Taylor will figure out how to crop out the stuff that's unimportant and extraneous and put that onto the YouTube thing. So then, if you know of anybody that wants it that would rather be on YouTube rather than Facebook, then you can pass that on to them. It is really good. They don't really get dry because they've got a creamy caramel sauce that they've baked in. Morning, Addie. And they're quite moist, quite nice. And if I am guessing right, I think Audrey made some yesterday because she had cream sitting there and she figured she needed to use it up. So she made cinnamon buns. It's our go-to recipe for when we have heavy whipping cream sitting in our fridge. We make cinnamon buns because it takes 3 cups of the whipping cream to 3 cups of brown sugar to make that caramel sauce. It gets heated up and then it gets put over top of them when they're baking, so that all kind of bakes in and around the cinnamon buns, and it's fantastic. It really is good. So there you go, cinnamon buns this morning. Otherwise I would have made Audrey's new recipe that she found, and it's a blueberry coffee cake, because I do have some blueberries, so I might have to make blueberry coffee cake tomorrow. Excuse me, and my voice is like all scratchy and scrapey and gravelly for some reason this morning. I don't know, maybe I got dehydrated. Hard to say what it is. I did cut my hair. I definitely cut my hair so I can style it a little bit different in the mornings now. I don't have to go through quite as much. And I managed to cut the back. Now, nobody's told me yet that it looks like a big saw job back there. So I'm just going to assume that it must be even enough that I don't have to worry about getting Audrey to do a touch-up job at this point in time, or go to the hairdresser and have them have a heart attack when they see what I did back there to my hair. There's benefits to having really long hair because you just let it grow and it doesn't matter, kind of a thing. I mean, eventually you have to trim off some split ends, but when your hair is shorter and you get it styled, it seems like you have to get it cut more often, or you have to do it yourself. And if I'd have been, well, maybe if we'd had more time when Taylor and Tassie were here, I could have got them to give me a little bit of a haircut, and then I too would have had a haircut the COVID hair cutting stars. So welcome here this morning. Okay, so we talked about some pottery and some baking stuff. And I'm wondering if any of you want to take a guess at what my item is that I upcycled or redid or whatever it is that you want to call it. Take a guess what I did. I haven't told anybody. I didn't even tell Audrey what I was doing. And Taylor and Tassie were here and they didn't see what I was doing either. So if you want to, you can take a guess at it in the comments as to what I did for an upcycled item for this morning. And I was going to do it last week for a reveal, but Lori was here and we were talking Willow, and so I didn't want to take away time from that. So I waited until this week for a reveal for it. And here's a hint. It's small enough that I could have it out of view of the camera and then bring it in without needing some moving men to bring it in and do the thing. So if you want to, you can take a guess and you can put it into the comments to see what I've done for an upcycled item that I'm going to have this morning. And I have lots of upcycling things that I need to do. So this may not be the one and only time that I show you an upcycled item that I did. One thing that I did do, give you a little bit more time, was last Thursday, Lori, my friend Lori, morning Diane, my friend Lori, who does the Willow stuff, came over, and we had I had some other ladies join me, ladies from my Bible studying group, and we went out into my gazebo, just because I have tables out there, and we socially distanced ourselves quite nicely. It was nice to be outside. The weather cooperated. And we made these really cool wreaths. Morning, Taylor. We made these really cool wreaths out of willow. And then there was an added item to it because I was thinking of a way to join in two local kind of businesses and yeah, just make it something that worked out good for the two of them. So we made a wreath. Mine ended up being the biggest, mostly because I was too lazy to, can you see me through here? I was too lazy to try to make it smaller and work at bending the willow. And you can see I have one kind of broken one here. I might have to wire it together, or I might just leave it. I like the natural look. So this turned out to be my wreath. And then we used some, what do you call this, jute and some wire. So we wired around this mason jar, and then we tied some jute onto it. And this is, Kate's clippings are way more beautiful than this. This is just some cow parsnip heads that I found out there to stick in my vase. Because the roses were done and everybody else was picking small white flowers. So of course I had to just go and pick the big white ones. Here I am sitting here behind this crazy thing. So it was so much fun just working with this willow and laughing together and being able to do a group thing, but do it very safely. We didn't share any food or water or anything like that. So we made these. And there were some good comments on Facebook. So we thought, hey, why not give people an opportunity to come and join in and do one of these? And we could do it at Pink Petunias there because we have lots of outdoor space. So we could definitely do it safely, social distance. So this coming Saturday for $25 at 1 o'clock, you can come to Pink Petunias. Morning, Judy. Oh, and Deanna's there. Hello. You can come to Pink Petunias at 1 o'clock. You need to sign up ahead of time and pay for it. And you come to learn how to make one of these wreaths. And if you don't want the jar in it, you don't have to have the jar in it. I just thought it was a cool idea because my plan is at one point in time to get some flowers from Kate's clippings and to be able to put them there. So you can hang this on your wall inside, and then have a place to put fresh flowers, maybe in a space that you normally wouldn't because you haven't got a flat surface to set it in. And I just think it looks really cool. So that's my invitation to you this morning, to invite you to do something just interesting, something just a little bit different. Get your hands dirty on something different. Morning, Ellie. If you're interested. So yeah, you can go to Pink Petunia's page and you can see that the information is there. And if you're interested, then you can contact Lori and you can pay. We're asking that you pay ahead of time, and she needs to know how many people are going to be coming, and then just not to have to deal with money when she's there. So you can, if you possibly could, an e-transfer would probably work the very best. And then we'll be COVID compliant. That's the word I was looking for, the C word, COVID compliant. Yeah, this is a fun thing you can make out of these. You can hang it outside too if you wanted to. I have mine sitting outside right now because I haven't picked the spot that I'm going to hang it in my house at this point in time. But yeah, something to hang inside of your house. And good morning to the cooks. I'm going to assume that it's Judy and not Trevor watching this morning. So you're invited to come and join in on that. For those of you that joined me just a little bit later, I'm sitting on my deck and the birds are singing, and I'm out here because it's nice and cool, because it has been a little bit warm the last few days, and we don't have central air conditioning. We probably could, or maybe should, because Daryl is an air conditioning refrigeration mechanic, and we could have put that into our home, but we didn't because it's 2 levels, and the areas where nobody, sleeps or anything, or on the upper level, and all the heat rises up there, so then we can just turn on fans and whoosh it out the windows, and then the main area stays actually quite cool. In fact, the bulk of the time, I would say, Daryl has a sweater on. I don't feel the coolness that much. I actually quite enjoy it. It's better for when you're buzzing around and doing different things. So he gets a sweater on and snuggles up in the chair so he can have a nap. and I just enjoy the coolness. But it was like 35 degrees here. I don't know if it made it there yesterday, but the day before. So it didn't stay as cool on the main floor as I would have liked. I had to just lay on the floor on the tile, and that would have cooled you off good. It's not really good for getting anything done, but hey, lay on the tile and be cool. Whatever works, I say. Whatever works. So I have given everybody a chance to guess at what I did for an upcycled item. I've given a little bit of space now. If the last ones of you that have joined in want to take a guess at what it is. The deal was, if somebody could guess what it was, what I was upcycling, if you could guess correctly, then I would send you something. I haven't decided what yet. I have all kinds of things that I create that I could send off to you. So if you want to take a minute and take a wild guess at it, just in case you guess right, it's small enough that I can bring it on camera without making it a big deal. So that's your hint for this morning. If you want to take a guess at it. I'm surprised that Taylor and Jassy haven't guessed. I figured for sure they would be taking a guess at what I was doing. And I don't think if they peeked in around the house, they would have seen what it was. So there we go. Well, I think I've given everybody enough time to reply this morning to see if they were going to guess what it is. And I will do the reveal now. It's a bag. Okay, so that part isn't really big and shocking that I did a bag. Need more hints. Oh, yeah. More hints. Well, I have upcycled, excuse me, I have upcycled wood items, tin. I've done lots of upcycling. Just if you ask my kids, they can tell you all kinds of stories of things that I've done over the years. Well, the thing that has kind of ramped things up is, and I guess I'll show you more as I go, but yeah, this is a bag. And it doesn't really look all that amazing or anything, but I'll tell you what I did in this upcycling. So as we get a little bit older, if Taylor a broken mug, you saw that by the sink. I'm still thinking about that one. What I'm going to do with that broken mug. Oh my goodness, yeah. Dropped a mug out of the microwave that somebody had left in there and had it all greasy, so it slipped out of my hands. Oh my goodness. That's a story for a different day. So over the years, because my family, so my parents, was on my mom's side and my dad's side, maybe on my dad's side not as much, because my dad was younger, so the chances of him ending up with things from his parents, well, when they didn't have a whole lot either, was quite slim, because when they moved off the farm, I think he might even have been, maybe, I'm trying to think now if he was, any relatives that are on and are watching right now, I don't remember when they moved off their farm and moved into the city, but they would have cleared out any extraneous old things. And for those people, when they came here to this country, they would have had the most rustic, basic, cobbled together furniture, everything, just because they didn't have money. They were just really literally dirt poor. And as the years went by and they could get nicer stuff, they would have just probably fired the rest of the stuff out into the barn or whatever. It would have just gone by the wayside over the years. So anything that they had in their home then now would be considered vintage. But with 8 kids and a heap and helping of all kinds of grandkids, the chances that I would end up in with something from them is pretty slim. But the whole point of that, me telling you the story, is that if you have, morning Judy, if you have parents or relatives that had lots of those older type things, eventually you probably would end up with some of these items. Now, some of them are quite beautiful, depending on which countries you came from or what kind of things were collected and had in the home. Some of them would be gorgeous and you don't need to do a whole lot to them. Lots of beautiful wood pieces, like, and we're talking like beautiful antiques. And you're probably not going to upcycle china that came in a set, those sorts of things. Those would just be beautiful and treasured, wonderful things that you would have in your home, and you would pass them down to your kids maybe, if they're not totally against all that old stuff. But in our family, we did not have a lot of money, so we ended up with a few pieces that were given to us from other individuals, thinking, I think Rhea and Nick could use this easily out on the farm. And they would bring stuff out, and we would end up with all kinds of craziness out there. Just some things were decent, and we definitely made use of them, and other things were just like, I don't know what they think we're going to do with this out here, but whatever. It gets stuffed in a corner or put into a shed, or sometimes we would pass things on to other people that we knew that didn't have things and could make use of them. Anyways, you end up with all kinds of interesting things. So over the years, I have ended up with some vintage linens, many doilies. And they were, because that was the style, that was how you decorated your place, was you used doilies, but they were just on everything. You didn't make placemats or little table toppers or anything like that. It was doilies. They're just scads of doilies. Now these are not handmade. I'm pretty sure these are not handmade by anybody in my mom's family or my dad's family. But I ended up with a big, huge bag full of all of these doilies. Now this one is white. I do have some that are multicolored, which it's going to be interesting figuring out something for them. And I probably should have done some tea dyeing on this to kind of cover up the few stains that are on this doily. But I figured, you know what, if there's some stains on it, it'll just add to the sort of vintage look to it. So I would incorporate that. This fabric here is not vintage, but it was some table toppers that I had made many years ago, probably 30 years ago, maybe at least 30 years ago. And I had them stuffed in a bag. And again, there's a couple corners that had some stains on it and that sort of a thing. So I had that laying there and trying to figure out what I'm going to do with that. It's not something, it's a little bit heavier. Excuse me, it's decor fabric. And so it's not fabric that I would incorporate into a quilt because there'd be some heavier spots in it. And then there is this leather. Excuse me for this terrible voice this morning. This is an old leather jacket, the black part. And I'm not sure about any of you out there, but getting a leather jacket has really been almost, I'm going to say a status thing, but it's just a dream to be able to own a leather jacket because it's almost like they never wear out. And they get more beautiful and more soft and supple the longer that you wear them. They just look amazing. So a number of years back, quite a number of years back, I think it was for an anniversary, we went to Edmonton and we went to a leather store, and both Daryl and I ended up with jackets, and I wore them for many, many years. But as with anything that you use a lot, you can start to just look sort of ratty. And the pockets on the side of it, with the pressure, putting my hands in there with gloves and that sort of thing. Morning, Mary. Started to break down and rip. So I had Lori actually fixed one of mine, or two of mine, fixed it with adding stitching to the side of it to just hold it together a little bit longer. And I didn't really care, you know, that somebody could see that there was stitching there or anything. I just wanted to get more use out of this jacket because it was starting to feel really beautiful. Leather is just soft and supple and just really beautiful. But I decided one day as it got more and more holes and tears in it that, you know, this is not attractive to be wearing this anymore. And so I just stuffed it into a closet. Well, the kids are both gone from home now. And now I'm going through closets and trying to figure out what to do with all of this stuff that to me still has some value to it. Yeah, Taylor in the 80s when everything rocked. Yeah. Oh yeah, that was definitely me. I was always into the stuff that rocked. Oh my goodness. But now I'm going through the closets and I'm trying to figure out what to do with this stuff. I mean, some of it I just fire into the garbage and just I'm done with it. Some of it is good enough and I know that I will never wear it or nobody else will ever wear it, and so it goes into bags and goes to the secondhand store and somebody will get some use out of it. I don't sell a lot of clothing type things. I just never really got into that. So I've been going through closets since the boys have been home and slowly getting things downsized because I promised them by the time I turned 70 that I would have downsized so they didn't have to deal with all of my treasures and my stuff that I have all over the place. So I'm slowly working at it. So I've pulled out a leather jacket and somehow I ended up with my mom's leather jacket too, hanging in my closet. I think because it was a little bit bigger and she figured I could get some use out of it. Well, the pocket's torn on that when there's some other holes in it. And I just thought, okay, there's got to be some use for one of these leather jackets. Other than when the boys were home, lots of times they ended up being costumes for some sort of costume party that they were heading off to. So I decided that I was going to use the jacket to turn into a bag because I figured that would be something that I would use probably the most of anything. And then I had this old piece of decorative linen and some doilies. And the center had a really bad stain in it, so I thought, oh, what if I cut out one of the roses and then I'll just do some string art around it. I don't know if you can see it. Hold it up a little bit closer. But I just kind of spun around with the sewing machine and just attached it, so it's quite firm on there. And I did one thing, and that was I've got a string hanging on here to trim it off later. The one thing that I did do was I added a strip at the top here. It looks black, and it's a little bit different than the other black, and that's because it's a denim. And I put it at the top because I didn't want the stress and the strain to be on the leather edge here, and possibly tearing when I added handles to it. So I put a little bit of a denim strip here at the top of it, and I used it on the inside of the handles too. So the part where my hand would be touching a lot underneath here, I put the dark denim because the light would just, if it starts to get dirty and starts to look kind of ratty, it's not that great. So I put that on the inside part of it so that it would take the brunt of whatever might inadvertently end up being on my hands. So I added those two things. The other thing that I added that's vintage, definitely vintage, is on the inside of it. I don't know if I can do this to see, but back in the day, this is a cross-stitched piece of linen. So it looks like, yeah, it's pretty, it's a raw linen that is made of. And then they itty-bitty, teeny-tiny cross-stitching, I don't know if you can see, all the way around this thing. And I think it was again, it was like a doily type of a thing that you would put on a piece of furniture, and then you could put stuff on it, or just maybe it would just sit by itself. Anyways, there's a beautiful rose on it, and it's got a scalloped edge on it, and I'm not going to end up putting it anywhere in my house. I'm a quilter, and so I have all kinds of quilted items all over the place. But it's too pretty to just kind of shove in a closet somewhere, where it's been sitting for a bit. And it came from my maternal grandmother's house. So I decided to stitch it down into the inside of this bag, and it has become a pocket. So now there is a pocket on the inside of this bag that's also upcycled, one of those doily topper kind of things. So on the side, it's got more leather on it. The only thing that I might have changed, this is because I just made this on the go and didn't overthink the construction of this, is that I did this with the fabric on the bottom, like this. And what I might do differently, I will be making another one for sure, because I've got more strips of the jacket, because the leather that's on here only used up the sleeves from this jacket. So I still have the fronts and the whole back that I can make into something. I could do it completely leather, but I don't know, I kind of like the idea that you combine things in it. But on the bottom of it, when I'm constructing the next one, I probably will do either a dark denim or a dark canvas or something like that. I will put a dark strip at the bottom of both sides when I stitch it together, so that I don't have a lighter colored fabric in the bottom. So if I inadvertently set it down somewhere, that I don't have to worry about it getting dirty. But right now, it just looks cool that this fabric goes all the way around the outside edge. And if you look up close, you can see where the sleeves were, that there's some extra stitching that ends up being in part of the bag, and then more stitching that's in here. So it just adds some interest. And I didn't want it to be so, well, it's black, so I couldn't really get that kind of a cool vintagey look that you would get from brown leather. If I find a brown leather one in a secondhand store, I might just pick it up just so I could have some fun with it. I'm thinking like a coffee sack would be really cool from a coffee place, from the coffee beans. Add some of that in there and some old can. Yeah, I think it would be really cool. So that's the next thing on my list, is to do something different with the bottom, and then maybe I'll tea dye a doily, or I'll put more of them on there. I just thought one on the side of this would be plenty for that. So I did that. And yeah, and I'll just enjoy some of the stains that are on the side of this doily. And as I use it, of course the doily's got to flop down a little bit on it, but it just kind of adds to the interest of the bag. So there's my upcycled item that I did. Let's see, Ellie, if I can read what here. You know, I'm not 100% sure. If I washed it in the machine, I'm trying to think what would happen to the leather. Would it just get stiff? Because I don't know that I've wiped down leather, but I'm not sure if I've actually washed it. I might take a piece of I have some scraps left over. So I might take a scrap and I might actually I'll throw it into the washing machine and see what happens to it when I take it out, what kind of shape it's in. My first guess might be that the black leather might bleed into the fabric. That might happen. I'm not sure. But yeah, hand washing easily would work on this. And if you were using something that was really super vintagey, special, and you were really trying to preserve it, and I would just fire this off to the dry cleaners. Fire it to the dry cleaners and let them deal with it. And it's not like, I'm not going to take this bag grocery shopping and get all those kinds of things in there. It'd be something that I would take with me if I went on a weekend getaway somewhere, a weekend trip, or if I went on vacation, went to visit my kids or something like that, then I would use this bag. So it's not going to get the same kind of use as say like a grocery bag, where you would be putting food stuff in there and really getting some serious use out of it. So it is something that I did think about though for washing, how I would be able to do that. The inside of the bag and the handles, and I could just partially wash it too, because I could wipe down the leather, put a leather cleaner on it if I really was trying to preserve the integrity of the leather. But the inside of the bag you can pull out, so I could easily wash that, hand wash that bag, the inside of the bag, and I could, and the handles with it, and then just lay it to dry or hang it over top of the railing outside, and then that part can just hang drip dry and it will dry on its own, and then I don't have to worry about the leather stuff on the outside. So there's a couple options of things that you could do in that, but I'm going to test wash a little piece of leather for sure and see what happens to it, see if it bleeds, see if it gets really super stiff. It's hard to say what would be happening with it, but yeah, I'm happy with how it turned out. I did line it, the lining for this fabric part of it, I did put a stiffener on it to like an interfacing, and the outside part of it I did with I put quilt batting in it, and then I top stitched on the fabric. The one thing you need to make note of if you're going to do that and you use a leather jacket, morning Vicky, if you're going to use a heavier weighted leather jacket to make this, make sure that you have either put a leather needle in your machine or use what they call is a jean or a denim needle, because they're much sharper and they will pop down to that fabric. And the other thing you need to remember is if you're going to top stitch on the leather, once you make a hole in it, it's there. The hole does not go away. So make sure you're quite sure that when you're stitching onto that leather, that's exactly where you want those holes, because moving that seam is unless you want to make a design, you can go in there and stitch a little design in there, because the holes will stay on that leather. They won't go away. It's not like fabric when you wash it and then the fabric will kind of fix itself. Leather doesn't do that, so you need to be sure that, and use a sharp needle, because you need to pop that thread down there, and make sure you use a heavy enough thread too. It doesn't need to be a super duper heavy thread. I didn't use a denim thread or anything on here, but definitely I wouldn't use like an Aurifil thread that I would use for quilting in doing any top stitch or anything. Would never use that kind of a thread, because it'll just break off and then your bag will fall apart at the most inopportune times, and then you're going to try and figure out how to piece it back together again. So don't do that. So just some tips on doing that if you plan on upcycling a leather jacket. And you can make these various sizes, and that's part of the thing with using strips is when you add other fabric to it, then you can add colors that you really like, and you can make that jacket go further. So even if it was a really small one, you can still use pieces of it, and you could do squares if you wanted to. This, I just chose to do strips for whatever reason. I guess I was thinking about the sleeves on the jacket and how to best utilize that. But yeah, this whole bag only used the sleeves, and I think I have a couple little pieces left of that I can add to something else. No idea what yet, but the leather's really cool, so I was thinking maybe I would, because I'm not really caring how it's going to wash up. But what I might do is cut some heart shapes out of it and then attach it to some of my jeans. I've got a pair of jeans actually that's getting some rips in it. And as cool as that's supposed to be to wear ripped jeans around, I haven't quite figured out how to carry it off really well. So I think what I might do is take some of that black leather and maybe stitch some hearts on it, whatever, on my jeans. The smaller bits that are on there. But if you can think of something cool to do with the bits and pieces that are left over from doing a bag or multiple bags, I'm thinking I can probably easily get 3 bags out of one leather jacket. Now this is not the bomber style, it's a little bit longer, but still, I'm pretty sure I can get about 3 bags, at least 3 bags. In fact, I might even be able to get 4, because I'm only using pieces of it. I'm not using, the leather is not all, the bag is not completely leather. So there you go. I'll make another one. This one will be mine, and the next one I make, I'll ask Audrey what size she wants, so maybe I'll make one for her. Out of the multiple leather jackets that I have in the closet. And to my children, I'm sorry if you're looking for costumes later on and you want those leather jackets. They're gone. I've moved them on to another use in this world that is not going to be something that you wear. I don't think I want to make any clothing. I'm sure you could, and people have done that. If you look on Pinterest, you can see all kinds of things that people have created. But I kind of feel like I'm past my custom sewing of all the clothing and things that I did over the years for the kids and for myself. I've moved on to quilting and other things that are happening. So there you go. That's the upcycle thing. Send me a message if there's something that you've upcycled that's been really cool. I have a friend bringing over a corner cabinet that's kind of a pine color, and she's done with that whole natural pine look. So I'm going to be doing some painting in the next couple of weeks while she's on holidays. So I'm going to give that unit a completely different look. Actually, what I might do, I might have to get some assistance from Taylor on this, but I will do some before and after pictures so you can see that piece. The other one that I'm going to be working on, I might take a break from the bag. Depends on what I have to make masks, so that might kind of eat into my time for working on a bag. But the other thing that I'm going to try to upcycle into something useful and interesting and still preserve the integrity of the item is an old suitcase. It's hard-sided, it's not leather, and I picked it up, I think I picked it up at a garage sale or something, and I picked it up for like $2. And I've been using it. It's been the stand that I have used to put my tripod on for doing these sessions in the kitchen when I'm cooking, because I needed a little bit of height so that the camera wasn't kind of facing up my nose. And I'm thinking now, though, that there would be more dignified, better uses for this old suitcase than just using it as a stand for me when I'm doing the cooking videos. So I'm going to take that old suitcase and I'm going to upcycle that also into something cool and useful. And so if you've got any ideas of things that you think I could do with it, that would be really interesting. My thought is, this is my thought, is that I'm going to turn it into a little cabinet that I'm going to put in the bathroom. So I'm going to add some shelves to the inside of it and some bracing on the back of it so that I can attach it to the wall And then I'm thinking maybe when you open it up on the one side, maybe I'll figure out how to put a mirror in there. Put it in the bathroom. That's my thoughts. If you can think of something else, let me know. What does Taylor say? Oh, glass jars. Make great cups. They do. In fact, they make such great cups. Good morning, Amy Ruth. They make such great cups that somebody got the brilliant idea that places that they make the jars is that if they put a handle on it, you could have a handle on your mason jar. And there's lots of people out there I know that have those. I never did get any. I planned on it, but every time I went to buy them, they were always sold out. So I never did get any of those. So I don't have those at my house. Maybe one day I'll have some of those. But for now, anything that's got a handle on it is going to be my pottery that I have. And I kept thinking my cupboard was filling up so much that I wouldn't be able to get too much more pottery. But lately, 2 cups have gotten handles broken on them. So here I am, collecting more pottery. If I take a road trip somewhere, we need to collect some. There's a potter in Pooscoop. And every time I go to see Taylor and Tassie, I drive by that sign that says Potter, and I'm just itching to have a chat with and check out the pottery in Pooscoop, BC, just across the border, just outside of Dawson Creek. That's one place that I'd like to check out. And then if this COVID thing does not just mess with my plans, I'm hoping to be able to take a socially distanced camping trip into Saskatchewan and visit a couple of people there, and that will be the thing that I will do on that trip. Maybe not so much look at quilt shops or anything like that, but go to some pottery places and see what kind of interesting pottery is out there. And then maybe on the way back, I'll stop in Alex, and then I can see the pottery studio from Kayleen, whom I purchased pottery pieces from in the past. So those are kind of my maybe plans for the future of doing something. I know and I really did say to you that it was going to be a tenting trip. I'm going to go against everything in every fiber of my being and screaming about tenting, but I am seriously thinking about borrowing or renting a tent, and Logan and I will do our little traveling thing, because then we can socially distance. We don't have to go into a hotel and be concerned about that. It'll cost less money than staying in a hotel, so it'll be budget wise, and for Logan, and that's a really good thing. Well, it's good for me too. And we'll try it for a week. I might make it 1 or 2 nights and say, forget that. I will just figure out something else to sell in my house so I can have the money to replace it for staying in a hotel and do that instead of tenting, because it really is not something that I thoroughly enjoy. I invited Taylor and Tassie to come along, and they're like, no, that is not our scene at all. They'd rather save their money and stay in a hotel. They want to stay in a tent. Oh my goodness. So those are my future plans, and we'll pick up some more pottery and do those sorts of things. So the next cooking thing, oh goodness. Oh, Sam, that's cool. That's cool. You can look at them later, Sam. Great to have you join us, and have a fabulous day. I hope you're enjoying some amazing summer weather. We've got clouds here again this morning, and I'm hoping that it doesn't rain, because those poor farmers that are trying to get their hay up. Yeah, it's just been a real thing. And it poured here last night, like just came down in buckets. There was water puddles all over my yard here. So for all of you farmers that are out there, I hope you get sunshine and breezes. We had about 2.5, 3 days of beautiful wind and sun. They were just fantastic for haying. So any of the farmers that were out there got on it immediately, got that hay cut and then baled up. They've got some amazing green bales. Some of the farmers haven't been quite that lucky. Well, there's no way that some of them that have bigger fields would be able to have the hay cut and have it dried and then baled up.
again in time to beat the rain that came down hard here. I'm not sure if it was just localized more to my yard and north, or if it went south to Little Smoky. Whitecourt got nailed. I saw it on the Highway 43 road report. People were videoing it, and it was just unbelievable. The rain that was coming down so hard, and then water is flowing everywhere. So we don't have to worry about forest fires here because we're out in our canoes trying to beat all this moisture that's happening out there. So wherever you are today, whether you be out on vacation enjoying some beautiful scenery elsewhere, or if you're in the garden, or if you're in some air conditioning because you're finding the heat just a little bit oppressive, wherever that might be, some of you may be doing all kinds of interesting things. I hope you have a fantastic day, that you are being kind to others and to yourself, that you have much peace, that you're not stressing about all the stuff that we're having to deal with, all this COVID stuff, that you're getting to spend some time socially distanced and safe. We don't want to have to fight off that COVID stuff too much. That you're just enjoying this beautiful summer that we're having at this point in time, and that you're soaking in the rays, and keeping your stress level low. Stress is not good for you, so you want to do that. Maybe you'll make some cinnamon buns. Have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, and maybe I will see some of you later this summer, depending on where I'm about. Sam, I definitely will not be seeing you this summer, way out on the East Coast, but yes, have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I will see you next week. I am contemplating doing butter chicken on Friday, but I will give you a heads up on that, if that's all going to work out good to do that, and that will be my second of the 2 food things that I do a video on for the month of July. So with that, have a great day. Thanks for joining me. My technology is not working.